The Marijuana Policy Project is trying to get rid of the idea that all potheads are stoners and lazy and never accomplish anything. And so they put together a list of the 50 most influential marijuana users ever. And it turns out that it includes pretty much everyone you've ever heard of. So let's first look at the top 10, starting with Barack Obama, our current president. You've got people in entertainment like Oprah Winfrey. You've got such illustrious figures as Clarence Thomas, even Stephen Colbert there, rich people like George Soros. You've got singers, people in the media, other politicians.
Bill Maher, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And then there's also there's some sort of random names as well, which are a bit lower down on the list, like Rand Paul, Tom Brokaw, who I would not have imagined. Martha Stewart apparently was quoted as saying, "Of course I know how to roll a joint." And Snoop Lion was number 50. I just love that they put him at number 50.
I don't know who that is.
Snoop Dogg's new
name. No,
it
says
his new name?
Yeah, it says it here. It's formerly Snoop Dogg.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
And so I think that this is interesting because I guess we know it on some level, but the fact that you have the current and every former president that we still have use this drug. Most of the entertainers that you listen to and watch every single day.
I don't think George H.W. Bush used
The pot?
Yeah, I don't think
really?
so. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Who knows?
Hard to say.
Who knows what they did back
Okay, then we got 3 out of 4. I think that's still
I don't
pretty
think
good.
George H.W. Bush did that.
And so basically, like
Maybe like last week he did. Literally. Like, I mean, he may have tried it now.
He may have tried it the last like 3 or 4. Yeah, give me some of that.
W clears brush and then smokes it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you would never need to put together a list of, can you succeed if you drink alcohol regularly? You would never need to, but for some reason we need to put together a list like this.
That's smart of them. It's a moderate entrance into sort of the fight back the PR war a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love it for that reason, but I also, keep emphasizing the hypocrisy. I mean, if you're, I think the last 3 presidents we know smoked pot, right? I think none of them should have arrested a single person for possession while they were president. Now, I know they don't get to physically do the arresting. I know that it's some on the local, state, and federal level, but it's certainly on the federal level. Until you put yourself in prison, you got no right to arrest people for drug possession, because we know the last 3 presidents smoked pot.
We're not talking, okay, I think there are great arguments that you have on this issue, but I don't think that's one of them, because I think that to say that a president should not be able to jail anybody because he did something like that, I mean, this article calls them marijuana users. I don't know that, Tom Brokaw was a user. He said he walked away from it. He tried pot. But, when you become president, there are a lot of things that you have to do, and upholding federal law. These people were not selling and presumably trafficking and all of that. So I think that's where it becomes extreme. This is where it becomes reasonable, is what I'm trying to say. This is a great article in favor of marijuana. When you say things like that, it becomes extreme. It doesn't have to be extreme. This is mainstreaming it, which is important.
But wait a minute. So let me go in 2 different directions here. First of all, everybody flipped out over Eliot Spitzer because they're like, well, he prosecuted, people on prostitution charges, and it turns out he was going to a prostitute. Unbearable hypocrisy. Okay, why is this not unbearable hypocrisy? These guys smoke pot, and they say, with the power of the federal government, I will put you in prison for the same exact thing I did and got away with.
He was the governor of New York when he was doing it at the time. George Bush smoked it when he was 24 years old or whatever, or maybe even more recently. He didn't do it while he was president.
But
it's a different conversation.
Spitzer did the prosecution not when he was governor, earlier in his career.
Well, no, I mean, the prosecution was happening when he was either Attorney General or Governor.
Attorney General is close enough.
Yeah, it's during his career.
By the way, I agree with you, Cenk, in the sense that I would say, I hate that hypocrisy. I don't care. It doesn't matter. We all do. He also jaywalked. I mean, I don't know whether somewhere in New York, somebody got arrested for jaywalking.
Yeah.
I'm sure
and there's also a learn your lesson part of things too with anything. I mean, I'm not saying it about pot here, but okay, I used to steal groceries when I was 15 years old. Right, I used to take cupcakes. All right, I'm saying I come until I become. I had cupcakes. I ate cupcakes. Not pie. But the point is but I've learned my lesson, and now I want to make sure that people don't steal cupcakes anymore, because it's a bad thing to do to the store owner, and it's a bad thing to do for your morale. Go ahead, John.
In terms of learning the lesson, though, what I take out of this when you see presidents on the list is that yes, I think that you're right, it's hypocritical, and you're right that he has to follow the law. But he's also the president, and so he can and should try to change the law if through his own personal life experiences he understands that the rhetoric we use against marijuana is incredibly hyperbolic. That he lived a fine life. He became a lawyer.
I know, but John, I mean, here's the thing. What it's indicative. I'm not demonizing.
No, I'm not saying you are.
What the president's using it is indicative of how it's changed and the lessening and the mainstreaming and the non-demonizing of it. So I mean,
they're still shutting down dispensaries. They're going all over the place.
But I mean, first of all, that's the way the Justice Department, they're actually laying off of that in 2 states where it was voted in. But the point I'm making here is that, just because a president has used it at a different time in his life. I mean, we're only talking about the presidents here for some reason, but it doesn't mean that they can't also uphold the law that they're charged with upholding at the time.
So here's a critical difference, Michael.
Yeah.
So if I stole cupcakes when I was 15 under your analogy, but I realized later that stealing cupcakes is really wrong, stealing anything is wrong. Okay, that's fine. You live and learn, and I get that, right? But if I smoked marijuana, or let's say I did underage drinking, but then I realized, actually, there's nothing wrong with drinking between the ages of 18 and 21. There's nothing wrong with smoking marijuana. And it could have ruined my life if I was sent to prison over it. Well, then maybe I should stop ruining other people's lives for something I got away with.
Or you should change the laws if it's a priority
That's
to
what
you.
I'm saying.
If it's a priority, it doesn't have to be a priority to you either. If it's a priority to you.
It wasn't a priority to me, so you're going to go to prison when I didn't.
Well,
so sad day
Cenk,
for you.
here's where I think your argument is significantly weakened, and it's the lame argument that we all engage in too frequently of finding hypocrisy. And finding hypocrisy for a president is the easiest thing in the frickin' world to do, of course, because they've said different things at different times in their lives, and he enforces 3,750 laws a day, of which he has no real say in any of them because he doesn't care. So you can't just say hypocrisy and slam the book like that's the end of the argument. Of course it's more complicated than that. They weren't president when they did this. They didn't have to uphold any law. By the same token, the reason the cupcake argument doesn't really work is because obviously you're hurting someone when you steal the cupcakes. You're stealing something from a shop owner. And now that we know about marijuana, that the evidence seems pretty powerful that it doesn't hurt people and something you did when you were a kid, then it seems to be that a logical conclusion for a civilized person would be, I probably ought not put people in prison for just possessing it. You, though, can't bring in saying he's shutting down dispensaries. Well, they're dispensaries, and the dispensaries are in violation of federal law. That they're also not in violation of a state law, but that's a matter that clearly the Supreme Court has to settle. Like, that's a complicated legal issue.
Well, he could change the federal law.
Well, he couldn't just change it either. He could decide that that's something he wants to do.
Deprioritize it. Yeah, he could deprioritize.
Yeah, he could also decriminalize marijuana and still keep straight, very strong anti-drug laws on the books. But
I think we all agree that no president ought to be spending time using federal law, minimal as it is, to put people who merely possess marijuana into prison. And that seems very clear. I don't know what role the federal government has played in imprisoning people for mere possession.